Good morning, everyone. Welcome to 10 QuickBooks Tips and Tricks to Save Your Business Time and Money. I'm Jill Zozula with LSL CPAs, and we want to welcome you today. Before we get started, we have just a few quick housekeeping items for you. Just to let you know, this webinar is being recorded, so if you want to watch it again, you can. And if for some reason you have to leave early today, but why on earth would you want to do that? We will have the recording for you later today, so look for that in your inbox. Also, we welcome questions. Just to let you know, we will be taking questions at the end of this webinar. So please put all the questions that you have for Candy in the Q&A chat box. The Q&A chat box can be found if you hover your cursor down below or above on your screen. A little Zoom toolbar will pop up, and then you can put your questions in there. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to introduce our speaker today. Our speaker is Candy Mako, and she is an accounting professional with over 20 years of experience in various industries. As a controller, she has both real-world knowledge and skills to take businesses to the next level. By using accounting tools, she brings the numbers to life and provides guidance for growth and potential. Take it away, Candy.
Thanks, Jill. Hi, everybody. I'm Candy Mako, as Jill said. I provide controller services here at LSL CPAs as part of our outsourced accounting services. I offer training and consulting to business owners and their staff to have a better understanding of bookkeeping and QuickBooks and how this knowledge will help their business. In this webinar, I will introduce you to some accounting and bookkeeping concepts and show you how QuickBooks can provide the tools you need for your business decisions. So today's topic is 10 QuickBooks tips and tricks to save your business time and money. So on to QuickBooks. So on our first, this is not a tip, but it's a side tip. If you are using QuickBooks Desktop, what I use is the sample files, and QuickBooks has loaded several sample files based on different types of industries. So I will be using a sample file in this webinar. You can log onto your QuickBooks and use one to follow along. I always encourage people, if they're new to QuickBooks or if they've already had their books already set up, and they want to kind of try out some of these tools and they don't want to mess up their file, use one of these sample files to test drive it. If you are using QuickBooks Online offers a file also for your online version. And if you Google QBO test drive, it will pull it up right away. It's a little different if you're using QuickBooks Online. You'll notice it's a little bit different than the desktop version. But today we'll be working mainly in the desktop version, exclusively in the desktop version, but I will give you samples if there are anything outside of QuickBooks Desktop that's a little different in QuickBooks Online. Okay, so now on to our first tip. So here is the slide that shows you the information on the samples, and our first tip of the day is keep your books up to date. I know this sounds pretty obvious, but in my discovery of people's books, that's probably one of the top reasons why their books are not, done, is because things get behind and they're not keeping their books up to date. So I find that even though, we're on tip 2, tip 1 is obvious, I find that it's probably the main reason why books end up getting behind or getting messy. So if you keep your books up to date, these are the 4 top tips within this tip. Is you get real-time information on your cash. You can catch fraudulent charges. This one will save you time and money over and over. If you are uploading your bank feeds, you're entering them frequently, you can catch those fraudulent charges right away. I also recommend two items at the top of my list of keeping your books up to date is entering those ARs as soon as you sell the product or provide that service, and then as soon as you get your bills. If you do those two pieces, you'll be way ahead of the curve. So tip number one, keep your books up to date. So number two goes hand in hand with tip number one. And this one is sometimes overlooked when I'm reviewing people's books. I notice that they don't have a set procedure on when these tasks get done. So I highly recommend to support number one is to have some type of procedure in place. For me, I literally have a notebook where I keep my tasks because I work with several clients. So each client is very different on the task that they need to have accomplished. So having it written down, especially if you have staff, so there's crossover training, someone could pick up where you left off if you happen to be absent that day. You can digitize it. There are some accounting softwares that will automate some of these reminders for you and these tasks. And QuickBooks does have that feature, and I'm going to show you how that works. So we're going to go into our sample file. I guess I should have done that when I was showing you how to enter keeping your books up, showing you the sample file, but it loads pretty quickly. And I will show you how in QuickBooks. We will go to company. We'll go to company. Oh, getting these error messages. We'll go into company and the reminders. So how the reminders get set up is when you enter your bills and your invoices. So it will automatically take all of that data and create reminders for you. So here's an example for today. We have several tasks to do. We have 2 bills that are coming up due. We have some overdue invoices. So this is a great overview of all the tasks that you do continually. QuickBooks will use the data that you've entered and give you these reminders. So it's kind of automatic as long as you put the information in there. The other thing that QuickBooks does, so here it has the upcoming, so you can drill down and see what's coming up. So then we're going to go to to-dos. So this is the reminders that is created by QuickBooks when you enter your data as an invoice, as a receivable, or as a payable. And then if you do want to have reminders that you create, you can go into the same drop-down company to-do list, and we click on that. And here are several types of tasks. So these are preloaded from the sample. So how you set up a to-do is you go down in the corner, and these will all be in your slides. So I'm going to go pretty quickly because I want to give you as much information as I can, and you can always review this webinar later. So we're going to go to the to-do. And then we pick the type of task that we would like to save for ourselves as a reminder. And it can be a call, a fax. You have all these different types. I'm gonna choose a task. And the important thing about choosing these drop-down levels is that you can sort them by type. All of these this gray bar here, you can sort it. So if you have some high priority things that you want to do, you can sort it by levels. So let's say this is just a medium, and is it with a customer? Possibly. Is it with a vendor? We can be very specific on who we're going to have this task with. Maybe it's just a general task and we're not doing it with anybody. It's just a reminder for ourselves. Here we can just type in the details of that task that needs to get done. And then when we are ready, we can say okay and save it. And what's great about this feature too is that after you're done with this task, you can call it done, or maybe it's a task that you didn't need to do, or you decided that it wasn't important, then you can make it inactive. So that is a quick view on how to create tasks. And then when you've created the task, you go back to your reminders window, and your to-dos will be here for you to follow up. So using technology, using your calendar, using any type of technology to keep up with your tasks become very vital to hit those deadlines, so you're not paying late fees, and you're prepared for any of the things that have deadlines, like payroll. QuickBooks, if you run payroll through QuickBooks, it will have reminders for you too. So it's really a great feature. This was just a little, when you're creating your procedures, this is just a little visual. QuickBooks has this really great homepage. So if you haven't created a procedure and that this is something you're interested to, I would use QuickBooks homepage as a template. And if you are assigning different things to different tasks to different staff, this is a great place to start. It just takes you from the beginning to end and how everything is integrated together. So that was just a little tip I recommend people when they're trying to figure out where to start. This is just a great roadmap. So, okay, we're now going to move on to our third tip. So these are the slides that will show you what I just demonstrated earlier. So my third tip is automate transactions and memorize transactions. This is a great feature that QuickBooks does. I use it all the time. It saves me so much time, especially for items that are reoccurring. That can be a bill, it can be a check, an invoice. I will show you in QuickBooks how that works and how you create a memorized transaction. So we'll go back to QuickBooks. Say we have a check that is reoccurring every month. It's the same amount. So there's two types. There's memorizing and automating a memorized transaction. So in the case of an automated transaction, what's so awesome about this is that, say we are charged, and just as a note, QuickBooks, if you use one of the sample files, they will put the date into the future. So I will put a date. And so let's say we have a bank fee every single month, and it's the same amount. This is the key. It's the same amount and generally at the same time of the month. So you can either click on the memorize button, or you can right click and you can also memorize the item here, the transaction here. So I'm going to memorize this check. And what's great is it has this pop-up. It says the name of the vendor, customer, and then we want it, so this will pop onto the reminders list that I showed you earlier. So we have add it to reminders list, and that's just going to remind you. It's not going to automatically put it into your QuickBooks. We're going to automate this one because nothing changes. It's the same every month, same amount. And then we just talk about the frequency. So we know monthly this happens, and so we put in monthly. We have started on 9/20, so we're going to set it for the next month for the same time. Number remaining, I will show you how you use that in another case, but for this one, it's indefinite unless we change the bank. And so we'll just save it. When we save it, next month, it doesn't even ask, it just, well, it'll pop up and it will ask you, hey, do you want to automate this? We say yes, absolutely, because that's one less thing you have to do every month, because you know we're going to have to do it every month. So literally it's set up, ready to go. So now I will show you how to do it as a, we'll go into one of my receivables, and I'll show you this is another place where it will save you so much time and energy. I'm going to choose well, what happened to my guy? I guess it got paid. Sometimes that will happen if the files get updated. So let's take this guy. He's a customer of ours, and we do the same work every month. It's the same amount, and every month at the same time we are going to invoice him. So instead of manually doing this every month, because we know it's the same transaction every single month, we're just going to memorize this one. So again, you can either click the memorize icon, or you can go to the right click, memorize the invoice. Oops. So of course this one is already set up. So then I'll show you another way to get into it. We will go to memorize, so go up to list, memorize transactions. That's also in your slides. And we'll go to this guy and we'll edit the memorize transaction. So same window, and you can do it as you're going. This one was already set up. I set it up when I was doing my setting up this webinar. So here we have we have several choices. We will automate this transaction. We will make it monthly. The next date, I think it was November, so it's picking December as our next one. And say we have a 12-month contract with him. So we've already billed him for 2. And this is where that feature gets set. So we know we have 10 more that we're going to be billing him for. So this will be set for 10 more months of automatic billing. The other thing that I love about this too is even if you have it automate, we can say we save this and we go into the transaction, and the person happens to need some seeds for their grass. They asked for a special thing. We can always go in here. This is not a static invoice, even though it's memorized. We can go in here and type in whatever, let's say they decided they wanted a tree removal. So we can just go ahead and add it. It's not a static invoice. And so even though it's memorized and then this month they decided they wanted this special service, we can go in and edit it at any time. So that's what's wonderful about automating these transactions, especially if it's it's going to be the same amount and the same time period every month. One less task that you don't have to even think about. And as I say, set it and forget it. So yes, so that's exactly what that feature does. And like I said, you can do it in any window, any transaction window. Say we have this bill, it's a telephone bill. So this would be a case where maybe the telephone bill changes every month. So we would memorize it as a add to my reminders, so that we know that the bill is coming up. It's already ready, set. The only thing we need to do is just to change the amount. So even in that situation, when we know that the amount changes, we know that this bill is coming up because it comes every month. So any bill that you have like that, it's a perfect situation for that. So that is the automating and memorizing. So this also ties back to tip number 1, just keeping your books up to date. And this feature alone will do most of the heavy lifting for you if you set it up. And so I highly recommend number 3. So now we're on to tip number 4, reconcile monthly. So QuickBooks, this is an example of QuickBooks Online, and if you are using the bank feature in QuickBooks and QuickBooks Desktop and QuickBooks Online, the bank feed, I know many people are moving to that feature, and so you're linking your bank to your QuickBooks, so the information is downloaded right into your software. So, and in that case, you can reconcile, which I do anyway when I've done it before bank feeds. I would reconcile daily or weekly, because as a controller, cash is my focus. So I always want to know where my cash is in relationship to the bank. Again, catching, fraudulent charges, those types of things, reconciling frequently, which I recommend, although my tip says reconcile monthly, that would be the minimum. So yeah, reconciling in real time will save you a lot of time and money to, like I said, catching those fraudulent charges. Another thing that can happen is if people are still taking their checks to the bank physically. I know there's a lot of mobile apps that can do the deposits now, but if you are still taking checks to the bank, this will help you also. So if you've already entered it in QuickBooks and then you noticed it didn't hit the bank, this is a really great way to catch those kinds of mistakes. Banks make mistakes too. In my years of experience, banks can. So it's just checks and balances. That's what that's what bookkeeping is all about, is checks and balances. And when you can have those checks and balances working in your favor, it will just revolutionize your bookkeeping upkeep for the books. So on the Reconcile, if you can't reconcile weekly, as I recommend, please, please, please reconcile monthly. Use that bank statement that you receive online or physically and reconcile monthly. The one part that I do want to talk about that I find a lot with my clients is the bank reconcile. So after you, in QuickBooks, and I'm sure in many of the other accounting softwares, there is a bank reconcile. So I'm going to show you a sample in QuickBooks. And please print these reports, or at least review them digitally. You don't have to physically print them, but please, when it asks you want to print the report, print them out, because it has very important information. One of the pieces of information that I'd like you to focus on is this uncleared transaction section. So when we scroll down to the uncleared items, it can be cash transactions, either check or debit, or any of those types of transactions will be categorized in either checks and payments or deposits. This one doesn't have a sample of a deposit, which is a good thing. There shouldn't be any transitory deposits, at least old ones, because you would hope that your money's in the bank. So anyway, we're going to look at the uncleared. These would be two flags. So we reconciled this in July 31, 2020. And if I'm reviewing this, as a bookkeeper, I would wonder why these checks were still outstanding. In my experience, and what I've noticed is usually these checks get cashed by the vendor because they're looking for it. So if I see these outstanding in my client's books, I know one of two things have happened. The check was lost, and the other thing is that the person rewrote the check or gave them another check and didn't void this check. So for me, monitoring cash, this is a big number, so it's going to affect my cash. And so I want to find out what's going on here. If this was a client of mine, when January 1st came, the new year started, many of these things I would make sure are not being carried into the new year unless they were actuals. These checks to me just signals that they were just overlooked. 731, I'd probably be okay with that because we're at the end of the month. The check was written. It should be cleared in the following month. So this one doesn't concern me as much. But these here, I would look into them, find out what happened. If the check's being held, it just got lost, reissue them, void these out, put a stop payment, and reissue these checks right away, and so that your cash is correct and your books will be correct. So that's the main point of this webinar, is having really good books and having them up to date. And that's one way to control these items that are not in sync with your books. So that is the Reconcile. So again, just number 4, reconcile monthly, reconcile weekly if possible. It just makes it go quicker. Your reconcile at the end of the month is faster, and using the bank feeds is an extremely great time saver. And so we're on to tip number 5. So in the theme of opening up cash, review your accounts receivable. So one of the things that I notice when I take on a new client is I review their accounts receivable. And just as a business, from a business standpoint, when your receivables get too far out, it gets more, as more time passes, it gets more and more difficult to collect on those receivables. So when you send out your invoices, either via email or physical, have a procedure. Going back to one of my tips is have a procedure that you follow up on your accounts receivables. You don't, I just want to emphasize, you just don't want them to get too far out. And when you are making those gentle reminders via email or, a phone call, and I will tell you, a lot of times what I find out if they didn't pay and they're a good customer, it's probably because they didn't receive the invoice. People like to pay their bills in my experience. So I think it either got lost in the mail, or if it got lost through the emails. Nowadays, people get a lot of emails, so it's possible. So just give them the benefit of the doubt. You can even send a little reminder, say, hey, did you get this invoice? Just following up. And they can come back and say, oh my gosh, I never got it, or I'm so sorry, here, I'm going to pay you. And if they are kind of slow to pay, if you do offer alternative payments and you make that call, try to encourage them to do it on the spot. People are really busy these days, and if you can just get them to give you a credit card and you can run that releases that cash. And again, just keep your receivables current, and you won't have to go chasing a lot of these slow to pay customers. I can show you really quickly. I did have that report up. So this is a receivables report. I would just focus on the 90-day section here. Just click on it. Just review and see who needs to be called or reminded. Again, you can put that on your reminders list and just tackle that. Maybe one day a week, you could have a staff or yourself just tackle your receivables. So just keep reviewing so tip number 5, just review your accounts receivables frequently, and that will save you a lot of time of trying to chase down these older payments, and in the worst case scenario, having to write them off. So you don't really want to do that. You provided the service or product. We should just get paid for the work that we do and the products that we provide. So that's my tip number 5. So we'll move on to tip number 6. So tip number 6, again, it seems obvious, but with most things getting digitized, it's easier to keep up with a lot of the paper that bookkeepers, we used to be in a big paper world, and digital, being able to scan and photograph our documents saves a lot of time and energy of having to go and research physically those boxes. So I recommend digitizing and encouraging your vendors to send receipts via email. So then you don't even have to scan or photograph. You already have it in your email. And then, with your procedures, again, have it set up so that you can start tracking your transactions with your receipts. This becomes really important or time-saving when you're doing your taxes and having all the backup. So there are softwares that's all they do is they copy your receipts and then you have it documented. QuickBooks Online, this is a difference between QuickBooks Online and QuickBooks Desktop. QuickBooks has a mobile app, and what's incredible about this, and I don't know how they do it, you take a picture of it, take a picture of your receipt, it automatically takes that information with the scan and puts it into your QuickBooks. So you don't even have the step of having to manually put in your receipt. So that's one of the incredible features with QuickBooks Online is the app feature, the mobile app feature, and that's one of the things it can do is literally take a picture of your receipt and upload it into QuickBooks. So time and money, it saves time and money. And one of the things I wanted to show you really quickly about QuickBooks, using QuickBooks as a means of storing your source documents. So let's say we wrote a check, and I will show you, I have a receipt here from Harbor Freights, and I just took a picture of this with my phone. Phones are incredible right now with the detail. So take a picture of it when you're at the store, you're in your car, and having a place to keep all your physical receipts is also important. But just as a quick documentation of the transaction, just take a picture of it or scan it, have staff scan it. So here's my receipt, and so $15.75. So I went and I cut a check for this, purchased this. So today is the 7th, and Harbor Freight, and $15.75. And what I wanted to show you, QuickBooks is very robust. It's an incredible piece of software, and one of the things you can do is store your documents. So any of the transaction pages that you're on, if you locate this icon called Attach File, if you click on that, it opens up a window so you can drop your documents in there easily, or you can also just find them as you normally do. Here's all my receipts. I'm going to do the drag and drop because I love that feature. So you drop it in here, and there you are. And we have a PDF of it. And so if I click on it, it will pop up my receipt. This is great just for documentation of the transaction. But if you have an accounting professional that is reviewing your books, they can also look at the source document and verify what the transaction was. It's an incredible feature. It's so powerful. QuickBooks is a huge data storage, and with this added feature of attaching documents, makes it incredibly efficient for filing and not having to remember what you purchased. Maybe you can, but if you can have your staff or yourself as a bookkeeper attach your source documents, saves you a lot of time and energy at the end when you're verifying transactions and making sure your books are up to date with the transactions. So you can do this in checks. You can do this in credit cards. If you get credit card receipts, you can do the same thing. You can attach your credit card so you go into a credit card transaction. You can have your document attached here. Another way is when you're paying your bills and you want to keep track of your bills and what you paid and what month. Say we're going to pay, let's just pay Harbor Freights again, since I have that receipt. Oh, let's pay the insurance. I think we have one for insurance. First insurance, here we go. So we have that, it's a transaction we have. I would memorize this one because it's the same every month, we know. And then here we're going to attach the actual invoice that we received from the vendor. And easy, and you just drop it, and then in here you can see the actual invoice. So you can see which month you paid. It will have the information of the invoice date, account number, it's all there. So instead of having to go file and try to find which invoice you paid, this one will give it to you easily, and it's attached to the transaction that you're curious about. So that is the drop and drag feature for attaching files. It's there forever. and it just keeps you organized. And being a bookkeeper, that's probably one of your top skills is staying organized and using the tools to stay organized. So that is my tip number 6, especially receipts with cash. Petty cash can get out of control if you're not keeping up with those receipts, and you really, really need those receipts as backup to reconcile your petty cash. And I recommend reconciling your petty cash. Sometimes I notice with clients, petty cash can get out of control. But if you keep the receipts and attach the receipts to the transaction, petty cash becomes a breeze to reconcile. So that is tip number 6. So we're moving on to tip number 7. So tip number 7 is one time saver also, and saving you money. Getting the best vendor terms. This is how we can enter vendor terms, and avoiding late payments. That's another thing I noticed, that when clients don't pay their bills on time and they get charged a late fee, that's just throwing money away. It's not necessary. If you are organized and you have your reminders in place and you have your accounts payable letting you know when things are being done in your reminders window, there is never a reason, never a good reason, never a reason at all for you to have late payments. So having your vendors entered in accounts payable will keep those late fees at bay. And another feature that a QuickBooks has is if you can negotiate better terms than the net 30 or the sometimes net 45, and they give you a discount for paying early. I know for bigger manufacturers, they have this feature. So the way that we enter a term for a vendor is we go into, let's say Brown. So this is the vendor. If you're not familiar with QuickBooks, like I said, I'm going to be very quick about it because I'm just giving you the tips, not necessarily how to navigate QuickBooks because it's pretty intense. So in Brown Rental, we go to the payment settings. We're set at net 15, but we have a really good relationship with him, and he says, we're going to give you guys a discount. So here we put in the discount, 1%, 10, net 30. So what's great about QuickBooks is when you get ready to pay this vendor and they have offered you this discount to pay early, it will automatically calculate that discount. So when you're putting in your bill, you put it in for the full amount. So you're paying this guy, or you're entering your AP for Brown, and he charged you $1,000, and you just put it in as $1,000. When you go in to pay it, it will have a reminder saying that he offers you a discount if you pay it at a certain time. You click that button, it will calculate it for you. So this is an amazing feature that I encourage you to use as a reminder. One, that this vendor is giving you this sweet deal, and 2, that QuickBooks will do the calculations for you so that you don't have to do all the math. It does all the heavy lifting for you. So that is number 7 for vendor terms and how to manage the great nets that they give you, and put those in so the reminders can remind you that you have a discount and that it's due so you don't pay it late. So that's tip number 7. So now we're going to move on to tip number 8. Tip number 8 is a big thing with bookkeepers, is filing the 1099s. So if you've been in business at any time, or if you're a bookkeeper, 1099s filings, they have changed the date. We used to have more time, but now we have to get them done by the end of January. So what I recommend, and I do this with all my clients, is that you collect those W-9s at the time of the transaction, if possible. I know sometimes I have clients that just write a check and they forget about that feature, or forget about that, that they have to collect the W-9. So as a bookkeeper, as a controller, I always have to remind owners and clients, but as a bookkeeper, we can get a little aggressive about this, because at the end of the year, just trying to collect things after the fact, anytime you have to collect anything after the fact, it takes way too much time. And if you do all of this in real time, your books will be fabulous. and you will be fabulous. And you know, it's just one of the things that if you're organized and you have all your procedures in place, bookkeeping becomes a breeze, and actually enjoyable. Well, I enjoy it, I'm a bookkeeper. But so in collecting W-9s, so you have a vendor, it's a possible W-9 situation, you can send this click an email, just say, hey, I'm about to cut your check, could you fill out this form really, quickly? They're a little motivated at that point. If you send them a check, they're not as motivated. I'm not suggesting hijacking their money, but just as a little reminder, hey, I'm about to cut your check, could you fill this out for me? And they usually will turn it around same day. And QuickBooks, this is another feature QuickBooks Online has that's over QuickBooks Desktop, is that they actually have a module inside of QuickBooks Online that will email the vendor, and the vendor can fill out their information, and then that information gets put right into QuickBooks. So, it's pretty incredible in that way. But if you're doing it manually, let me show you quickly how we control the W-9 situation. So if you are not filing your own 1099s, this is a great feature to have your information ready for your accounting professional who is filing it for you. So we'll go to Computer Services by DJ. We'll go into his profile. In the payment settings, the tax settings, this button here is very, very important. Click it, because what it will do is it will tag him as a W-9, 1099 vendor. And when you print the summary report, even if you don't have his information, just click it as a reminder. Again, having these reminders automated will save you so much time and headache. So just go in, click this really quickly if you don't have all of his information. Again, a lot of times these clients are email clients, so we may not have this information, and the W-9 will give us all those vital information. So here, click this. We can fill in this later, and or if you don't want to fill it in later, this one has a little paper clip. So here we have a paper clip, and so we know we can store our W-9 here. So if I click in here, so maybe I don't have time to fill it out, but I did get it. I can just attach this to the vendor, and then a bookkeeping or accounting professional has the information right there. So we don't even have to go searching for it. It's right there. They can fill out all of the vendor information for you, quick and easy. So, and then you have record of it. And I just encourage that. Another question I get a lot about the W-9s is, who should I get them? Hey, I say get it from everyone, and then you have documentation if they are, and if they're not, then you have documentation that they're not required to get a W-9, but you have it on file. And if you connect it to their profile in QuickBooks as a storage, it's quick and easy. You can say, oh gosh, this person, I can't remember the documents there. You look real quick. Oh yes, so he's qualified. Let's click that little box as a reminder. Let me see, where am I on time? I will show you really quickly the vendor 1099 report, summary report, just to give you an idea of what happens if you have the information or you don't you have that you sent him some money. It shows you right here that no tax ID on file, so we need to follow up. So I would review this. I review this pretty frequently too, to make sure we have everybody's information. And another thing that I get from vendors is it's January and they know it's the 600 minimum, and it's a check for 250. I still collect them because I always tell them, hey, we might use you again before the end of the year. So then they are kind of convinced that, okay, that's fine. So because they would want the business too. So there's just ways, that you can get the information that you need. And that's probably the most challenging part of being a bookkeeper, is just getting those documentations. So that is my tip number 8. So we'll move on to tip number 9. So this is more information about the W-9.
Andy, you've got about 5 minutes to wrap up.
Okay, so let's go really quickly. So my tip number 9 is software. The software is a tool, and as I demonstrated, yes, a lot of the software, you can automate a lot of things, but we still need the brains behind it. And the bookkeeper and having skills can use a lot of these features, but you do need to have bookkeeping as a foundation. You can't just dump everything into the software and expect it to pull out these beautiful financials. You still need someone who is skilled in bookkeeping or as an accounting professional to move a lot of this data into the right category so that we can get really nice financials. In this example, there's usually QuickBooks has two accounts it creates, is unallocated expenses and unallocated income. So, and it also has a memo section. So I encourage people, if you don't know, just dump it into unallocated and income, and then just let your accounting professional know that you didn't know what to do with it, but you needed to get the work done and move on. You got to cut the check, just put it there. And put in the memo as much information you can. If you put the source document in there, they can see it and can help you categorize that correctly in your financials. So that's tip number 9. And then tip number 10 is just back up your files. If you're in the cloud, I think it's coming to a point where everybody's on the cloud. But just make sure your IT person or you yourself is backing up your files regularly. It just will save you a lot of time and energy if something gets corrupted. Just take my word for it, back up. I think, like I said, we're in a world that most of this is automated, but if it's not, take the time and get yourself backed up. And then my bonus tip is that if you ever get stuck, it's always worthwhile to have an accounting professional to review your books, or if you have questions. A lot of times what I discover is what causes much of the time and energy is not taking the time to ask someone. So we're here, I'm here, I'm offering more training and support, and so I highly recommend if you do get stuck, just ask someone. So that is my last bonus tip. So thank you guys. I hope this was informative and you got some tips that can help you with your bookkeeping journey. Thank you.
So Candy, thank you. And we have several questions that have come in. Ironically, one question was asked by several people, and it was, "Hi Candy, do you have a preference of QuickBooks Online or desktop, and why?"
Yeah, I get that question a lot. It really depends on your personality. What I've discovered is a personality thing. But I like both versions. Really, when I recommend either or, it's not because I like one more or the other. It's just what type of business you have, what type of personality you have. One thing about online is it's accessible anywhere that you have internet connection. So if you're the type of person that is on the go, that is probably the best. Desktop is more is static unless you have a remote in. That's the two main differences. And like I said in my tips, there are some features that are incredible, but both software is very powerful and very great for accounting. So that's kind of my answer. It just really depends. It depends on the person and the client. That's a good question. Thanks.
The next question is regarding the receipts that you covered. Once you take a picture of your receipt, how do you get it to be able to drop and drag it to attach file?
So when you so those receipts that I created, I took a picture with my phone, and then I emailed it to myself, and then I converted it to a PDF. So I believe I've always used PDFs. I'll have to find out if we can use other forms like JPEGs, But for me, everything that I use, because I'm in document mode, is PDF. So converting it to a PDF, saving it as a PDF. I think you can print as a PDF, converting it to a PDF, putting it on your desktop, and then you just click it and drag it over into QuickBooks, as long as you have that attached window open. So that's a good question.
Okay, and then the next question is, any advice on how I can keep others on track so I can get the books done and up to date? Sometimes I'm waiting on information from others and it makes me really late.
Yes, so that is the trick of being a bookkeeper, is managing. And so, like I said, if you can have procedures in place and have them with your staff or your business owner, is making it really easy for them to get the information to you. I think that is vital. Like I said, email is great. So, I work with a lot of busy owners, and they'll buy something, and the first time I'll see it is on the credit card statement. So then I just send a quick email, say, hey, could you forward that receipt to me? Like if they're buying a lot of Apple products, computers and things, and I need to categorize them as assets. So yeah, that is probably the number one job of the bookkeeper. I mentioned it earlier, just getting the documents. But if you have your procedures in place and you gently coax the vendors and your owners and your staff to get on schedule, it makes it easier. I'm not going to say it's going to eliminate it, but that's a lot of the tricks that I've had over the years, is trying to get those source documents. So I feel you. Yeah, so that would be my advice, is just having a procedure for yourself, and then encouraging your vendors or wherever you get the source documents to get on task with that. Good question.
All right, our next question is there a place we can go to see upcoming webinars? Do you have ones for QuickBooks Online? That is an excellent question. So basically, we want to hear from you and see what kind of topics you're interested in learning in future webinars from Candy. So is it accounts payable module? Maybe some digging deeper in that. Is it accounts receivable? Is it learning, how you would migrate from desktop to online? So if you are still there, we see most of you are still on, if you would just pop in the chat box any training topics you're interested in, and then from there we're going to be putting together further training webinars coming up in November and December. And then someone else said, how do I contact Candy? So actually, Candy's contact information will be sent to you later today in the follow-up email that has your slides and the recording. But her email address is Candy, C-A-N-D-Y .Mako, M-A-K-O, at lslcpas.com. And I'm going to go ahead and pop that in the chat box now. And then another question that just came in is, Candy, how do you get good vendor terms?
Oh, vendor terms. Well, number one, just ask. Because if you're the bookkeeper and you can save your business owner a lot of money, it adds up. So number one is ask. Having a relationship, that's one of the things I've always done, even with banking in your position. Whoever you're speaking with, customers or vendors, I just recommend having really great relationships. That relationship will take you really far in your career. If you do volume, you can negotiate, and if you're a good customer, like I said, it goes with the relationship. It being a good customer, paying on time, and especially if you do volume and you pay on time, you can always negotiate better terms. So that's one of the things I started doing and really helping. As you get organized, as you get your books done, then you can start doing these higher level kind of proactive tasks for your business owner, and they will really appreciate it. Yeah, they love it when you can save them money and you're being proactive that way. So that's my number one, is just ask. Never hurts to ask.
So that looks like all the questions we have, Candy, and we are right on the mark. I just want to thank all of you for attending today. As I've mentioned a few times, you'll be getting the recording and the slides and a couple of other free goodies sent to your email box later today. And also I encourage you to go ahead and sign up for our free bookkeeping tips. Every week we'll send one straight to your inbox every Friday. So I did pop that URL in the chat. Candy, if you want to advance the slide, a couple, then that URL is there as well. There it is. And go ahead and sign up there. And we want to, again, thank you all for spending this hour with us. We hope you found it helpful, and we look forward to seeing you on future webinars. Take care now, and have a fantastic day. Bye-bye.